At DFW, my daughter looked me in the eye and said, "I forgot your ticket, go home." I felt the heat rise, but at 67, I've learned to breathe, keep my voice level, and shield my granddaughters from scenes. So I rolled my suitcase out, unlocked my front door, and opened a paper trail, the kind that doesn't shout but answers every lie. A forgotten tablet on my nightstand blinked awake like a witness. That moment at the gate was only the first crack. What followed were dates, receipts, and a calm I use like a spine. Before I continue the story, please subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're watching from, or drop a 1 if this hit home. The name missing. The glass of Terminal D threw the morning back at me. Heat shimmered bright, already busy. Taxi doors thudded, a skycap waved somewhere down the curb. I rolled my small blue suitcase and breathed the dense Texas air. My phone chimed. From Darley, we're inside, just come straight to security, we handled check-in. I smiled, told my knees to be kind, and stepped toward the sliding doors, grateful to be early and useful. I reminded myself to take it slow. Inside, cool air washed over the noise and perfume of travel. By the kiosks, Lyle checked his watch like it owed him time, while Shanda and Lassie stared into their phones, thumbs flying. Darley gave me a quick cheek brush, no real pause. "Great, Mom, you made it," she said. "Let's move pre-boarding soon." I nodded, adjusted the strap of my purse, and matched their hurry without asking for it. They moved as one. I edged, careful not to slow them. At the counter, the agent's nails clicked, while her eyes scanned the monitor. "Last name?" she asked. First I answered. She typed again, then frowned softly. "I'm not finding a passenger under that name on this itinerary." Darley angled in. "Mom, you probably used your old email again." Her laugh was brushed tin. I offered my ID and the credit card I used to pay. The agent checked. The screen stayed stubborn blank of me. A couple behind us shifted, and Lyle exhaled loudly as if loaning me patience he could invoice later. Heat crept up my neck. I held still and let my hands rest flat on the counter palms, cool on the laminate. I breathed. We slid sideways to the queue penned by chrome stanchions and red belts. Lyle performed another watch glance and sighed. Shanda kept her eyes on her screen like it might burn if she looked up. Lacey studied the terrazzo tiles on purpose. A family laughed. I straightened my cardigan, measured my breath, and reminded my face to stay friendly no matter who was forgetting me. I understood the choreography. Avoid eyes, avoid blame. Let the clock be the villain while the person disappears. I stayed. Back at the counter, the agent's patience sat between us. Darley lowered her voice, chin tucked careful. "Remember, we handled bookings because you're not tech-savvy," she murmured. I let the sentence pass through me like a draft, then anchored it. "I taught first grade 29 years, I said lightly. "I can read a confirmation." The agent looked from daughter to mother, then back to the screen that stood blank of me. I kept my tone. "Could you search by record locator?" Darley's hand hovered near my wrist, guiding and guarding at once, a gesture that felt like a label more than care. A boarding chime rolled over us, bright as a bell from a church I no longer attended. I pictured the girls' faces catching the tone of my voice and chose gentleness. "I don't want a scene," I said. "Could I just see the email you received?" Lyle pivoted his shoulders toward gate. "We'll sort it in Paris," he said. "We need to go now." I nodded, felt my shoulders settle, and tucked my ID away. Keeping the peace did not mean leaving my mind at the door. It meant saving the right words for later. The boarding lane opened like a zipper, families arranging themselves by zones and strollers. Darley tugged the girls forward, then turned back to me with her public face. "Mom, I must have left your ticket at home. Just go back. We'll fix it when we land." The world narrowed to her syllables. I kept my voice level for the girls. "I can wait here," I said. "You can ask the agent to reprint." She shook her head. "Security won't let you through without the boarding pass." I breathed out to keep my hands steady where the girls could see them. The PA announced final call for another city, and I nodded once dignified as a yes to myself right then. We drifted to the rope line. Shanda gave me the kind of hug that keeps the torso out of it. Lacey leaned in and whispered, "I'm sorry." I squeezed her fingers once. "Have fun. Send me a picture from the gate." Darlie called over her shoulder. "I'll text when we land already," folding herself into the stream. Lyle lifted 2 boarding passes like proof of order. A TSA officer waved a family past. I stood tall enough for the girls to see, then let my arms fall and the space between us lengthened until their backpacks were dots. I lifted a small wave. Lacey glanced back once, then followed. Quiet. I turned my suitcase and eased toward the escalator metal teeth taking me down, while the terminal's glass showed me as a moving reflection. One woman tidy, uninvited. I did not plead. I let the noise of rolling bags and braided announcements pass through and took inventory, ID and wallet card returned, pride intact. At the base, I crossed to the windows and watched a plane lift, silver belly flashing. Home first, I decided then, verify. Feelings later, facts now. I inhaled steadily and felt the old classroom rhythm come back. Order the steps, then teach them to yourself. I could do that. Okay, the taxi merged onto International Parkway summer lights, skipping off shuttles. DFW slid smaller in the mirror until it was just letters on a sign. I opened my messages and typed a draft I did not send. Heading home, will check my records. Then I closed the phone and pictured my dining table, the folder with receipts, itineraries, the paper bones of truth. I would check my records, not their voices, and decide from there. The house opened to a hush that felt staged. The front door clicked behind me. My suitcase wheels stitched a thin line across the hall. Noon heat sat bright on the blinds. On my nightstand, one object was wrong in the familiar picture, Darlie's tablet, sleek, and face down its charger, still looped like a ribbon. The girls had plugged their devices in my room last night because the outlet behind my headboard is the closest. Darlie left the tablet there when she rushed the packing. I turned it over. The screen woke without asking for anything, as if my touch were expected. Darlie never bothered with a passcode when the girls shared it for schoolwork and streaming. It had been charging and was still signed in. A blue badge pulsed over the mail icon. I tapped it and the inbox bloomed. On the top thread, a subject line read, "Situation handled." The phrase tracked too neatly with the way my morning had been rearranged. I opened the thread. Months of messages unspooled in tidy rectangles, Darlie to Lyle, Lyle to Darlie copy, to a travel agent I didn't know. Attachments wore names like itinerary final 3 PDF and villa hold confirmation .jpg. Near the middle, my stomach caught on an image, a screenshot of my bank wire, $65,000 to a tour company, annotated with a cheerful thumbs-up sticker. Below it, Lyle had typed, "Keep her distracted at security. Easier if we move quickly." Darlie replied, "She'll manage. She always does." I carried the tablet to the kitchen table where the light is honest. I signed into my secure email and forwarded the entire thread to myself, then again to a second address tied to my safe deposit box. I exported the messages to PDF and saved them to an encrypted drive. Then I set my phone to silent and photographed the most important screens, subjects, attachments, the wire, the line about distracting me. Every click steadied my breath. The tablet vibrated, a small, startled animal in my hands. A banner slid down from the top, "Remote erase requested." A circle began to draw itself. For half a breath, I froze. Then the teacher in me, who used to improvise during fire drills, woke up. I stood cross to the pantry, tore a length of aluminum foil, and wrapped the device until the seams looked like armored origami. The circle stalled. The banner blinked and held waiting on a signal that could no longer find the room. I placed the foil bundle on a dinner plate and called Marcia Sullivan. "We have known each other since PTA nights and permission slips." "Don't power it off," she said. "Keep it isolated. I'm bringing in a specialist." A second voice joined, measured and awake. "Kenda Ruiz," she said, "digital forensics. Bring the device. We'll image it and preserve chain of custody. You're doing fine." I ordered a rideshare. Dallas rose on the windshield. I drafted a message I would not send. "I found your thread." Instead, I opened notes and made a list, bit by bit image. photo intake, evidence bag, hash verification, document every touch. I pictured Darlie at 30 laughing with her hair in her eyes. I did not picture the boarding door. Marcia met me in the lobby and guided me to a small room. Kenda slipped on gloves, photographed the foil package, then eased the tablet into a clear labeled bag. She connected it to a hardware write blocker and a tower. Bit-for-bit image, she narrated for the record. On a monitor, a progress bar inched forward. Beside it, a string of characters populated the SHA-256 hash that would later prove the image matched the source. Somewhere along the chain, the tablet attempted another handshake. The lab's isolation kept it deaf. Good, Kenda said softly. No more chatter. Minutes later, the console printed, "Image verified." Kenda read the hash aloud for the log and gave me a form to initial by time and date. Marcia sealed the bag labeled my name and noted the device status powered isolated. On her screen, a window flashed past a file named familycontributions.xlsx. The title carried a domestic smile sharpened to a point. I felt my mouth open. Kenda shook her head gently. "It's there," she said. "We catalog first, then examine." Process beats curiosity. I closed my mouth. The habit of following steps had taught generations of 7-year-olds to find their homework. It could get me through today. We moved to a glassed-in conference nook with a view of the skyline ribs. Marcia outlined what paper has to say when people refuse to. Subpoenas for the travel agent and tour company, airline PNR audit and phone support logs. Confirm the villa reservation under the names on that thread. Your bank's wire confirmation and any calls around the transfer. We'll meet tomorrow to file. I took notes in my square schoolteacher script. Before I left, I sent one more email to my secure address with a summary and timestamps. I thanked Kenda for not hurrying where it mattered, and Marcia for speaking in steps instead of thunder. In the elevator, I watched my reflection and revised my posture the way I would for a shy student before a presentation, shoulders back, chin settled, eyes forward. Heat lifted from the sidewalk outside in silvery sheets. In the car home, I kept my phone face down and my mind plain. Next copy's stored calendar cleared a visit to the bank first thing in the morning. The device was quiet in its bag beside me. The city slid by its windows, catching sun like small repeated verdicts. Numbers and dates would have to speak where people had lied. Kenda met me at the glass door with a clipboard and a nod. The forensics room smelled of coffee. Yesterday's evidence bag sat sealed on the steel table, a printed label with my case number and Kenda's neat block letters. She snapped on gloves, scanned the barcode, and read the SHA-256 hash from the intake sheet. The number on her screen matched it exactly. Procedure steadied my breathing. Facts would speak today, clear. She mounted the tablet image and mirrored it to a wall monitor. One file name floated up Family Contributions XLSX. Kenda waited for my nod. When the file opened, rows and columns filled the screen. I read the first line, then the second. The names I loved next to amounts they could not spare. My chest tightened at the clean weight of proof. Paper leaves no room for gaslight. Across the top listed 5 columns, date, amount, extraction method, story used confirmation. March showed 2 wires labeled bridge loan. April had a cash withdrawal, tagged medical emergency. Its story column listing nephew's surgery with a checkbox marked paid. My own line sat in May, like an anvil, $65,000. Extraction method prepaid villa, itinerary withheld. Story used group discount expires tonight. Confirmation bank wire posted. They had scheduled my erasure like a dental visit. Marcia stepped in with a highlighter and a stack of folders. "Counts we can articulate," she said. "Wire fraud, elder financial exploitation, conspiracy, false pretenses." Yellow ink traced a quiet road. "We move with care," I said. She nodded once. The weight in my throat hardened into spine. Kenda exported the spreadsheet to PDF and filed it in an evidence folder. Then she opened the tablet's calendar. A square on today's date glowed 2:00 p.m. tagged CUPUA. She drilled into the reminder thread power of attorney notarization. My name sat in the notes like an object on a tray. This was no longer about tickets, but about who would hold my pen. "We call before they do," I said. Marcia tapped a number into the speakerphone. The credit union routed us to the fraud desk. A man with a steady voice on the line identified himself as Gavin Lee. I verified my information the way I used to quiz spelling words clearly, slowly. I explained I feared a coercive attempt to place a power of attorney for my finances today. "I'm not disputing every transaction now," I added. "I'm asking for a freeze on any POA actions until my counsel is present." Gavin asked 3 more security questions, then paused long enough to make me check the call timer. "I'm flagging your member file," he said. "Reference number CU0616FZ will require in-person verification from you for any POA creation or change. I'm emailing a confirmation to the address on file." A chime sounded on Marcia's laptop. "Received," she said, saving the PDF into our packet. My shoulders lowered a half-inch without permission. Kenda returned to the tablet logs and captured the calendar entry and associated emails as screenshots, adding timestamps. A chat snippet surfaced: "Meet at 1:40 to sign. Bring her driver's license copy." Kenda clipped it, added it to the chain of custody list, and printed a cover page. "Attempted POA notarization pending," she read. I asked for a full printout of the spreadsheet. On paper, the story looked like a ledger. I circled 3 relatives whose lines hurt worst small amounts taken through investment slot airfare float membership dues. They would get calls from me later, not to gather sympathy, not to stoke fire, but to protect them from the same net. Sometimes love is a phone call made before a signature turns permanent. Marcia slid a legal pad toward me. "Next steps," she said. "Audit request to the airline for the passenger name record. Villa contract confirmation and vendor receipts. Bank proof of the wire with misrepresentation. Notice to preserve communications. Courtesy letter to opposing counsel if they retain any." I wrote as she spoke, printing block capitals. I have spent my life organizing field trips. This was the same skill, colder in purpose. When Darley's name lit my phone from overseas, I watched it ring and then darken. My thumb hovered over messages. I typed 1 sentence and saved it in drafts. "Please coordinate with my counsel." No more paragraphs explaining intent. No more stories bent back on me. I slid the phone under the pad. The sentence felt like a small fence hammered into fresh earth. Kenda pointed to the corner of her monitor where another tab waited. Family contributions.xlsx remained open, but next to it, a small icon blinked for confirmations.zip. "It's there," she said. "Receipts, itineraries, a photo of a handwritten packing list." I could have asked to open it, but discipline has a sound, and it was the whisper of paper sliding into a manila folder, not a gasp. "Catalog first?" I said. Then we read. She smiled without showing teeth, the kind of approval teachers trade in halls. We took a short break for coffee. I stood at the window and looked down at traffic on Elm Street, people moving toward lunches, meetings, and lives that did not include mine. The city was ordinary, and that steadied me. I have always believed in small routines. Label the stacks, date the pages, tape the envelope shut, file the confirmation. The truth would not shout. Numbers and dates would speak where people had lied. I squared the printouts and wrote the reference number at the top. I set the desk lamp low and drew the binder closer the tab that read, "Trip 65K, clip to the front." I had rewritten the same sentence all day, letting it cool the way you let a kettle sit after it screams. When the words finally settled, they were as small and firm as a stone in the hand. "Please coordinate with my counsel." I opened the thread with my daughter and pasted that line, nothing more. I did the same to my son-in-law, then set the phone face down and listened to the house take a breath. The Texas evening pressed against the windows, cicadas, working the dark like tiny engines. I poured water for tea and waited without pacing. Waiting, I have learned, is also a decision. The first reply arrived in a burst apologies. Explanations about airline rules. Security windows, a tone of flustered competence. She wrote as if the airport itself had decided my place. I answered with the same 1 sentence. No exclamation, No debate. The second reply came stacked with screenshots and a promise to fix it when they landed. I sent the sentence again and boiled the kettle once more, letting the steam ghost the glass. Lyle called. His name filled the screen as if it had been there all along. I let it ring to voicemail. A moment later, his voice arrived, measured and careful the way people speak when they are arranging furniture around a story. Maura, we're boarding. We love you. We'll call when we land. Behind him, I heard a high chime and then a girl's quick whisper. Grandma, I'm sorry. Cut off by someone shushing. I carried the phone to the sofa and replayed the message with headphones. The chime wasn't the one I had heard at Terminal D yesterday. This tone dropped a half step and ended with a soft click. I replayed the last 3 seconds and wrote down the gate number he thought he had hidden between breaths. Details keep their own diaries. You just have to learn how to read them. I forwarded the voicemail to my attorney and added a single sentence about what I thought I heard. She looped in the forensics specialist and a few minutes later texted back a short confirmation the timestamp did not match the moment they said they were already in line. The network tag was wrong for their claimed terminal. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt aligned like a chair finally set on an even tile. Marcia called within minutes. Her voice did not rise or hurry. She asked me to keep replies templated to log each incoming message with time and caller, and to avoid deleting anything at all. She would file a communications memorandum and add the audio to our evidence packet. The airline record request and the villa reservation inquiry were, she said, already in motion. Let the documents do the talking, Maura. You stay dry while the rain falls on paper. I wrote her words on a yellow pad and underlined them once. Boundaries work best when they are written down. I drafted a formal note and sent it from my email, copying my attorney all future matters to attorney Marcia K. Sullivan. Then I set an auto-reply with the same instruction. Nothing sharp, nothing theatrical. It takes fewer words to build a wall than to explain why you need one. My phone buzzed again. I let the sound pass through the room like a truck down the street. When it stilled, I stepped to the sink, rinsed the cup, and looked out at the heat peeling from the driveway. On the counter lay the fountain pen my husband used to sign field trip forms 2 decades ago. I set it in the binder pocket as if setting a seal on the day. Near dusk, a video call flashed from Paris. The camera framed the Eiffel Tower tilted just so. My daughter smiled too brightly as if light could be turned up like volume. Mom, look where we are. The girls are exhausted, you know how travel is. I kept my face neutral, asked if they had eaten, and ended with the same sentence about counsel. A minute was enough. The girls did not need more theater. As the screen went black, I pictured the girls' hands on a balcony rail and the weight of a day they did not choose. I thought of how apology had slipped into the voicemail like a note someone jammed through a locked door. I would not make them choose sides in a city of lights. Whatever I rebuilt would be made of records, not scenes, so that no one had to carry my anger in their luggage. The message tone returned this time to the family chat. A photograph of a dinner table glowed on my screen, white linen 3-place cards upright, one turned face down. My name would have sat there folded like a secret. I saved the image without replying. Some chairs speak louder when left empty. I printed a transcript of the day's communications and labeled it VM Paris. I slid the page into the binder, stapled my one line to the inside cover, and marked the spine with a strip of blue tape. I added a table of contents, dates, sources, attachments, notes. On the last line, I wrote tomorrow's tasks call with the bank confirm audit request, pick up certified mailers. Then I turned off the lamp and stood in the doorway to listen. The refrigerator clicked, a dog barked 3 houses over, and the air conditioner sighed. I set the binder beside the cookbooks between casseroles and page-marked celebrations, a record kept where families live not in courtrooms, not in whispers. The house sounded like itself again. Tomorrow would belong to paper trails and calendars, to facts that keep their shape no matter who tells the story. Morning light draped the kitchen table in a polite Texas hush when the family chat chimed. A photo from Paris filled the screen, 4 seats, water glasses, winking candles shivering in their holders. At the end of the table sat a place card turned face down its little tent of heavy paper, casting a narrow shadow. No caption, no joke, just that tidy, deliberate omission. I set the phone flat and let the kettle finish its soft rattle on the stove. I did not reply. I have learned that some chairs speak loudest when left empty. I pinched to zoom. In the window behind the table, glass caught a sliver of the card's white edge, enough to show it wasn't blown over by a breeze. The linen napkins were folded like sails, untouched. Forks sat at right angles. Intention lives in the angles. I called Kenda and put her on speaker. "Send me the original," she said. "I'll pull the XIF and check the lighting cues. If the restaurant printed place cards from a list, we may see a receipt in frame." I emailed the full resolution image to her work address and waited with the phone face up on the counter. Her reply landed with a simple professional sentence. Unedited image timestamp. 7:17 p.m. Paris reservation shows 5. She attached a crop of the receipt tucked under the edge of a wine list, 5 top server initials, a handwritten note, guest absent. Kenda's report logged file name, hash values, and local time conversion. "You don't need to answer that chat," she added. "You already have," I breathed out. The sting remained, but it had a label, and labels help you sort what you will not carry. An email from Provence arrived next. Madame Mora wrote Madame Robineau, "I confirm your prepaid deposit covers 5 guests with balance settled upon arrival." Below that, another thread, a later request from Darlie to reduce occupancy by 1, with non-refundable understood in the body. The villa's ledger showed my wire number in the margin of the original booking. Numbers do not lie. They simply reflect the story placed upon them. I forwarded the messages to Marcia and added a note vendor corroboration, adding to packet. Marcia called almost immediately. "We'll send preservation notices today to the restaurant and the villa and ask politely for CCTV near the table and the front desk. We'll also request the place card list the host printed from." Her voice was calm the way a metronome keeps time, while a pianist manages difficult measures. "Do not engage the family thread. Your one-sentence policy stands." "It does," I said, and underlined the words in my legal pad, "policy, not debate." By late morning, Mr. DeWitt from the airline audit team emailed his findings. The group PNR contained 4 ticketed passengers. No e-ticket existed in my name. My passport number had never been associated with a ticket number on that itinerary. The line that had tripped me at the counter record locator not found wasn't a glitch. It was the plan. I read the letter twice and printed 2 copies, the paper warm in my hands. When a story collapses politely, it still collapses. I opened the binder to a new tab, vendor confirmations. In went the villa email, the audit letter, and Kenda's analysis, each PDF stamped with a time hash. The spine of the binder creaked softly like a small boat tying up after hard water. I wrote a neat label for the tab and pressed it down the way a nurse smooths a bandage. Evidence is not a cudgel. It is a splint. You use it to keep what is still living from bending further out of shape. A draft window blinked at me. The cursor, a small metronome in an empty bar of music. You could have told me I typed to Darlie, then backspaced until the line disappeared. I attached the latest documents to Marcia's secure portal and closed the thread to my daughter. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors you decide who may walk through and on what terms. I sat on the sofa where Robert used to fall asleep with the baseball game murmuring low. His photo watched from the shelf beside the binder. "I will keep the girls safe," I said out loud, because promises feel stronger when your own ears hear them. I wrote 3 names on an index card, relatives who might quietly need to know they were not alone in being asked for money. Tomorrow I would call, not to accuse, but to steady. We are kinder to one another when we have facts to lean on. The printer hummed again. I made more tabs, vendors, airline chat photos, POA relatives. The label maker spat out its tidy tape, and I pressed each word into plastic dividers until the pages flipped cleanly from one chapter to the next. I emailed Marcia a short summary: S9 photo verified deliberate omission. S10 confirmed no ticket ever issued. Request guidance on civil demand and vendor subpoenas. She replied that she would prepare drafts tonight. By sundown, the house had cooled, and the binder held more truth than our group chat had contained in months. I set the pen Robert gave me, heavy and blue, the kind that makes you write slower, into the pocket. The phone lay face down on the table, not in defiance, but in choice. I knew exactly which relative I would call first. Some doors I would close gently, others I would leave open with clear signs posted. Tomorrow would be for those signs. Tonight belonged to quiet, and to a name placed upright where I could see it. Before turning out the lamp, I propped a blank card on the mantel and wrote my name in a steady hand. It faced the room. Patricia answered on the second ring, her voice already braced. I kept to one question, the one I had written beside a yellow tab labeled Relatives. Was your investment real? The line went quiet long enough for me to hear the hallway clock. Then she exhaled and said she had wired $42,000 last spring for what she'd been told was a bridge loan. It was family, she said. They promised it would clear in 6 weeks. It never did. She forwarded the texts, then a glossy PDF with charts and radiant promises, the kind meant to look official when all they sell is speed. I opened the files, saved copies to the binders folder, and wrote the date on a sticky note. I have learned that dates are the ribs of truth. I thanked her not for the money. No one thanks someone for being used, but for her faith in me now. The phrases in her thread match the phrases in my binder: package rates, security window lock pricing. She authorized Marcia to use her documents and asked me a question I could answer honestly. Are you all right? I told her I was not, but I was steady. After we hung up, I slid her name into a new slot on the timeline Kenda had started for me, a simple grid that refused to lie. A woman my age can carry a lot of pain if she can put it somewhere that stays still. Uncle William picked up on the third ring. His embarrassment arrived before his story did. He had sent $19,500 for a family cruise that never left any port. The supplier failed, he'd been told. The refund was stuck in processing. He spoke like a man who had trained himself to shrink for years to keep the peace, apologizing between sentences for trusting the wrong people. When we finished, he emailed the wire receipts without being asked. I filed them and wrote one sentence across the top in neat block letters. Pattern, not accident. The letters were square and dark. I didn't press hard. I didn't have to. Marcia and Kenda joined me on Zoom. The faces of two women who make sense out of mess took the corners of my screen. Marcia outlined a joint demand letter. Kenda pinned artifacts to the board in the order they had happened, not the order they had been explained. Patricia's PDF Williams wires the villa confirmation, the airline audit, the photograph of the face-down place card. When anger rose, I wrote definitions in the margin: wire fraud, elder exploitation conspiracy. The words steadied me. The way instructions do when a room fills with smoke. Step 1, Step 2, breathe. Procedure is a kind of oxygen. My phone lit at 2:05, the exact minute I had circled in red yesterday. Gavin Lee from the credit union spoke in the measured cadence of someone trained to be both polite and firm. There had been an in-branch attempt to present a power of attorney over my accounts. Staff had declined because of the freeze we set up yesterday. Reference CU 06166FZ. He said the visitors insisted they had authority and asked about a remote notarization. Policy was explained. Original documents were required. They presented urgency and confidence instead of lawful paperwork. The desk did not move. Neither did I. I asked for what would endure an incident number and confirmation that branch video would be preserved. He read from the screen incident CU 0617 POA. The presenters had declined to leave copies of identification, had tried to schedule a later appearance, and had left when it became clear the freeze was not a phrase, but a lock. I thanked him, then asked for something practical for my breathing. Was my money safe tonight? He said yes. The word landed like a chair placed under me before I noticed I needed one. I wrote the number twice and slid the note into the plastic sleeve beside the freeze reference. Shields should be layered. We widened the shield. Marcia filed preservation letters to the branch and requested the footage. I placed fraud alerts at the credit bureaus and reset online banking. A trusted contact note went on my accounts with her number beside it. Kenda, somewhere across town, turned my scattered tabs into a color-coded line, asked deposit staging exclusion. She shared the grid, and I watched the colors link. It was grim satisfaction, like seeing a cracked bone finally appear on a clear X-ray. At least now we could point. She added the villa documents, the airline audit, and Patricia's PDF to the same row, and the pattern clicked into view with the neatness of a kitchen drawer closing. An overseas number buzzed. "Mom, you're making this harder," the text read. I did not reply. I forwarded the message to Marcia with the subject line, "Routing per policy." No commentary, no defense of my feelings. The girls would not be used as punctuation in a fight I was done having by phone. I have taught children to count by twos and tie their shoes. I can teach myself not to answer bait. The boundary we set yesterday had to be a habit, not a moment. Habits are how grown women stay standing when the floor shifts. By late afternoon, Kenda's timeline looked like a train schedule. 3 rows already matched in wording. 2 more empty rows waited for calls I would make tomorrow. I added clip notes so my future self would not have to guess at tone. Patricia steady. William ashamed but willing. In the margin, I drew a small arrow toward the district attorney's intake office and wrote one more pilot's note assemble, then approach. I was not building a scene. I was building a case. I read the arrow twice and felt my shoulders lower the way they do when a teacher closes the classroom door and silence finally becomes a tool. The sun folded itself under the eaves and the cicadas took their shift. I moved to the porch and set the binder on the small table Robert had sealed years ago with patient hands. I made a list for morning 2, relatives DA Elder Unit Intake Credit Union Affidavit. I uncapped his fountain pen and let the weight of it settle my fingers. "I will keep the girls safe," I said into the quiet. I do not know when safety became the work of my day, but I know how to do work. I locked the front door, checked the window latches out of habit, and left the binder by my chair where I could reach it without thinking. I set the porch light to warm and left binder by the door. Tomorrow would be policy and papers. Tonight I chose sleep over speeches, breath over quiet. The lobby of the Dallas County DA's Elder Unit buzzed with printers and coffee lids. I signed in, set my binder on my knees, and kept my breathing even. Labels peeked through the plastic vendor's airline bank relatives. The receptionist called my name with the same tone I used to call a child to the front of my classroom. Plain, steady fare. I rose with the binder and the pen. Robert left me a small weight that kept my hands from shaking. Assistant District Attorney Aaron Caldwell and Investigator Dana North sat across a narrow table in a room with no windows. Aaron read the intake disclaimer out loud. Dana slid a fresh evidence envelope between us and explained chain of custody. I told the story the way the papers told it wire made ticket missing. Boundary set bank freeze holding. I handed over the incident number from the credit union, the villa email, the airline audit, and a dinner photo with my name turned face down. No speeches, just forms and facts. Kenda joined by secure screen share. On their monitor, the file called Family Contrib. Cell SX opened like a ledger written in a careful, cruel hand. Dates, amounts, the phrases I'd heard, bridge loan package rates, security window. Patricia's transfer sat on one line, Uncle William's cruise deposit on another, my $65,000 on a third with the note prepaid villa occupancy change. Aaron circled the column titled Story Used and said more to the room than to me. Pattern, not mistake. "Let's open the other file," Dana said. Kenda pulled up a PDF titled RHLP Ledger. The header carried a stylized R. Beneath it, entries jumped month to month, Riverton Heights LP, Maple K Holdings Custodian. Each line showed timestamps that matched the days those contributions left our accounts. Patricia's March wire flowed here, then onward the next day. William's early May transfer followed the same path. My June deposit sat like a stone split into tranches, each marked settled. Erin underlined a date and tapped her pen once. They moved into steps, not promises. Dana drafted preservation notices for the LP portal host and the custodian service. Erin marked referrals to the State Attorney General and the Financial Crimes Task Force. I signed releases authorizing them to obtain my bank records, airline logs, and the villa contract. I initialed each page. I have taught 100 children to write their names with care. It turns out my own name is safest when it is written a dozen times in blue ink. My phone buzzed. I excused myself into the hallway and answered a video call. Sunlight bled across a French cafe. Tiny spoons chimed on saucers. Shonda's face filled the screen for a second before she flipped a selfie and pretended she was just waving at me. "Grandma," she whispered, "did you choose not to come?" Her voice was careful, like we were speaking through the door of a sleeping house. "No, sweetheart," I said. "I was told to go home. You are not responsible for any adult decision." She swallowed. Her camera angle shifted like a teenager trying to look casual. Behind her, in the cafe window's reflection, a laptop sat 2 tables away. The screen header was readable in reverse, and then simply readable Riverton Heights LP Investor Portal. A badge glowed under it. Wire submission successful. The date matched the week Patricia sent her money. "Take one smiley picture of yourself," I said softly. "Send it to the family chat, and then send the same photo only to me." She nodded, lifted her chin, and caught the frame. In the moment before she hit the button, someone shushed in the background the same tired syllable I'd heard in the voicemail. Shonda didn't turn. She just pressed, smiled, and the photo winged to my phone. Back in the room, I handed the image across the table. Erin asked permission to airdrop it to the evidence workstation. Kenda hashed the file, read the digest aloud, and saved the original and the computed value to the log. Dana noted the cafe name from a menu corner and wrote a request for camera footage for the hour surrounding the timestamp. "We'll subpoena the portal host for login IPs and the record of that successful flag," she said. "We'll ask Maple K for ledger entries that match these dates and amounts." Erin glanced at me. "You've done this exactly right," she said. "Keep all communication routed through counsel. No debates by text. Protect the granddaughters. We will take the next calls." I thanked her and did not cry. I thought of the Eiffel Tower framed behind my daughter's hair in last night's call. It was a pretty picture. Pretty pictures can sit on top of rotten numbers. By late afternoon, I was home again. I set the binder on my desk and added a new tab, Riverton Heights LP. I printed a clean copy of the hash record and slid it into a plastic sleeve behind the tab. The pen clicked twice under my thumb. Out the window, a neighbor walked a dog that paused at every mailbox and seemed delighted by every curb. My phone lay face down. I let it rest. I wrote one sticky note and stuck it to the front inside cover where my eye would meet it every time I opened the binder. Hold the line. Protect the girls. I turned off the lamp and left the binder there, square and heavy, a quiet thing that carried more truth than any speech I could give. Tomorrow would not be about proving I had been erased. It would be about money that moved where it shouldn't have, and who helped it move line by numbered line. The task force basement swallowed sound. Fluorescence hummed above rows of gray desks, and my binder tabs, bright as crayons, looked almost cheerful against the concrete. I checked in, signed my name, and sat beneath a corkboard crowded with chain of custody slips. Analyst Jonah Park rolled a cart of evidence sleeves to our glass room. I felt the loosen in my chest that comes when an argument becomes a record. ADA Aaron Caldwell and investigator Dana North waited with a dry erase calendar of deadlines. I opened the tab marked RHLP. Jonah overlaid Patricia's and Uncle William's wire receipts with ledger timestamps from the tablet image. The numbers met like puzzle pieces. Caldwell's pen ticked each alignment. "Precision first," she said. "Speed second." They finished subpoenas for the Riverton Heights host and Maple K's custodian. Jonah brought up the secure portal. Caldwell keyed credentials. Timestamps crowded the margin like marching ants. Emergency preservation notices went first clean, formal signed, then subpoenas dispatched with a soft digital ping. Jonah logged each step who touched the file, when from which machine. Minutes later, 2 banks pushed compliance alerts related activity flagged. SARS already filed. Caldwell forwarded the pings to the State Financial Crimes Desk. My binder, for the first time, looked less like a plea and more like a spine. On the whiteboard, North kept scope from ballooning. Mortgage files, LLC shells, proxy signers in one column, victim restitution and civil recovery in another. "We protect the people first," she said, circling the word victims. I breathed the way I used to steady a room of third graders after recess. I was not here to win a fight. I was here to make a record. In the break room, my phone buzzed Tasha O'Neill from the credit union. "Ms. Keene, you asked for a call if anything moved." It had. At 11:42 a.m., 2 individuals tried to access a safe deposit box using an emergency contact form that listed my accounts and a prepaid callback number. Staff compared signatures, cited policy, and requested original identification, plus a notarized power of attorney. They were refused. Incident CU 0619 SDB created. Footage preserved. I repeated the number so Caldwell and North could write it down. Tasha read details. The form mimicked my looping capital K, but slanted the wrong way. The box number they named was mine. The attempt came less than 48 hours after the POA try we had already frozen. "Please forward copies to counsel," I said. When I hung up, Jonah labeled a new sleeve safe deposit and dated it a blank, waiting for what would arrive. Back in the glass room, Caldwell put the incident on the whiteboard under a new heading, Ongoing Attempts, and drew a clean line to the tablet ledger. "We'll add branch video to the list," North said, and the forged form for handwriting comparison. I pictured that crooked K and felt no heat, only a cool, narrow beam of purpose. After lunch, we joined a Zoom with Rhea Morton, operations manager for the Phoenix Consolidator that handled the itinerary. Her background was a cubicle wall and a thirsty plant. She had my consent on file and the company's recording notice active. "We can confirm," she said, reading, "no live PNR exists in your name. A note placed weeks prior states, 'Do not add additional traveler-client request.'" I let the sentence sit. "There's one more thing," Rhea added. "Their system stores voicemails left on the business line. With legal acknowledged, she played an audio clip and shared a transcript. The voice was careful, patient, and unmistakably my daughter's. 'Keep her off the PNR. We'll tell her there's a mix-up.'" The timestamp fell inside the same week my wire landed for the villa deposit. Jonah paused the audio and captured hash values for both file and transcript. Caldwell added metadata to the subpoena amendments. I did not replay the clip. "You don't stare at the sun. You note the light and move. We routed. We did not react." Marcia CC'd on every email, drafted civil demand letters that braided the voicemail with vendor confirmations and the RH ledger. North coordinated with the AG task force so victim statements wouldn't sink under the larger financial case. Jonah updated the chain of custody log until the page looked like a stitched seam. Near dusk, Caldwell outlined tomorrow sign an affidavit at the branch, deliver a clean copy here, begin formal victim impact statements. "You've done everything right," she said not unkindly. I closed the binder and traced a finger across the tab that read, Relatives. The drive home ran me straight into a gold Texas sky. I kept the radio off and dictated tomorrow's list into Notes affidavit, notarized signature card, follow up with Tasha, confirm preservation at the branch, check on Skylar without asking questions she shouldn't have to answer. A thought tried to bloom a door I could still knock on, a call I could still make, and I let it pass like a car in the next lane. Silence, I reminded myself, is not absence. It is structure. At the kitchen table, I placed the binder where morning sun would find it. I wrote one line on a sticky note and pressed it to the cover, hold the line, protect the girls. Then I powered off my phone-set water to boil and let the kettle speak in the only language I needed tonight, steady, contained, and warm enough to carry me to morning. Tomorrow I would trade grief for affidavits. The notary pressed the seal and the paper lifted with a crisp bruise of ink. I signed, twice steady. The affidavit said what mattered: no emergency contacts, no stand-ins, no permission for safes or signatures. The clerk slid both copies into an envelope and smoothed the flap as if weight could keep truth from fraying. I carried it out like quiet armor. The pen felt heavier than it used to. Perhaps I was the one becoming lighter, shedding the habit of explaining myself. Paper can carry weight, too. At the task force, the bullpen breathed in unison. Jonah logged the envelope, stickered the flap, and handed me a visitor badge. Investigator North sketched the evening plan in blunt pencil. Terminal D near 8. Marshals at Customs. A counselor with me. Lyle guided aside for routine questions. "We favor light over heat," he said. I nodded. Children line up in storms. Adults aren't so different. North tapped the plan twice and looked at me the way a good teacher checks for understanding. I gave him a small, reliable yes. In the hallway, my phone vibrated. "Skylar, Grandma, are you okay? Mom says you chose not to come. It doesn't feel true." A second bubble arrived, a photo from the Paris gate, her tennis shoes at the edge, a reflection of 2 boarding passes on the polished floor. Not 3. My breath rose but did not fall. I tapped a heart and wrote, "I'm safe. We'll see each other soon." She replied with nothing. Dr. Lena Morse briefed me in a room with soft lamps we promised not to dim. Her phrases were seatbelt, separation protocol, minimal exposure, no disclosure of case status. Deputy Laramie traced the route from arrivals to a conference suite near the U.S. Attorney's offices and placed each of us like chess pieces guarding 2 small queens. My task: speak slowly, say little, keep my hands open when the girls looked for them. Evening poured through the glass of Terminal D until the floor gleamed. I stood behind frosted partitions, my reflection layered over luggage belts and posters for cities I did not care to see. The clock slid toward 8, then passed. North's phone pinged touchdown. The doors parted. I saw them before they saw me. My daughter, moving hard through the crowd. Lyle, a half step behind, hunched over his phone. 2 granddaughters in the middle, tired by travel. The intercept read like choreography. Laramie flowed beside Lyle with a quiet greeting and guided him toward a secondary hallway without laying a hand on him. "Doctor." Morse reached the girls with her badge tucked away, offering water and a quieter space. Darlie's jaw locked. She turned toward me, a performance rising. I refused the stage. I walked to Skylar first. "Hi, sweetheart," then to Lacey, "You're safe." Both nodded without words, the way tired children do. We moved as a small current down the corridor. Darlie tried to narrate the air mom there was a mix-up. "We were going to fix it there. You left Dr. Morse," redirected gently, a conductor turning down brass. "Not here," she said, warm and even. "We're just getting to a room." I answered my daughter once without stopping. "We will speak tomorrow." She reached for Skylar's shoulder. Skylar stepped toward me instead. In the conference room, the lights were soft and the carpet drank our footsteps. The counselor set water on the table and asked about snacks and ears and sleep. We did not mention documents or tablets or money. We talked about jet lag. When she asked where they wanted to be tonight, I kept my eyes on the table. "You can stay with me," I said, "if you choose." Skylar nodded, sudden and certain. Lacey looked at her sister and then at me and nodded too. Logistics settled themselves in the adjoining office. The girls would ride with Dr. Morse to my house. A caseworker would check in at bedtime. Darlie would go to a downtown hotel with scheduled call-ins. North texted me. Tomorrow's plan arrival facilitated conversation next steps. I wrote the list into my planner in pen. Through the glass, I saw 3 silhouettes, a woman bracing, 2 girls leaning toward the person holding the door. We left by a side exit where the air felt younger. At the curb, Dr. Morse opened the car and the girls climbed in without prompting. Darlie stood 20 feet away, arms folded, waiting for a cue that did not arrive. I walked to her because I am the mother, and some words still belong to me. "We will speak tomorrow," I said, quiet enough that only her bones could hear. "Bring honesty." She stared past me at nothing. I turned and got into the car. The ride home was all zippers, bottle caps, and soft voices describing the color of an ocean sunset without looking at each other. When we reached my house, the porch light I forgot to set had come on anyway. Inside, I laid out clean t-shirts and the quilt I stitched from old clothes. Skylar found the square cut from her grandfather's flannel and smiled. Lacey carried the evidence binder from the hall table, holding it like a fragile book. I stood in the doorway while they settled. My phone buzzed, then fell silent. I turned it face down and poured 2 glasses of water, one for now, one for morning. The day had taught a simple thing: you do not have to swing to move the balance of a room. You stand where the truth lives, and you refuse to leave. I turned off the kitchen light and listened to the house adjust 3 heartbeats, settling under one roof. Tomorrow would ask for harder words. Tonight would be quiet. The room was small, by design, soft lamps, a round table, a clock that ticked. Dr. Lena Morse set a box of tissues within reach. "We'll keep this respectful," she said. "No raised voices, no debating evidence, no surprises for the girls. I'll summarize any statements in a brief we sign before we leave." I folded my hands to keep them still. Darlie sat across from me, chin lifted. Skylar and Lassie waited in an adjoining room. Deputy Laramie stood at the door. "I'll go first," I said. 2 minutes. I kept my eyes on the table. On May 19th, I wired $65,000 to secure a villa and group tickets. On June 15th, at Terminal D, I was told my ticket had been left at home and I should go back. I did. The girls stayed with you. They are safe today. I want a truthful explanation. Dates and amounts are hard to shout down. Darlie's breath hitched. "Mom opted out," she said. "You said the walking would be too much. The airline messed up our timing, security windows. It was nuts. We called, didn't we?" Dr. Morse's pen did not move. "Darlie," she said, "can you provide the specific message where your mother opted out?" Silence sat with us like a 4th chair. Her jaw worked once, then twice. "It was a call," she said. "No record." She looked at me. I did not move. "With your permission," I said to Dr. Morse, "one photo." She nodded. I slid my phone across the table. A gate selfie from Paris, the one Skylar sent, showed bright carry-ons and 2 boarding passes caught in a reflection. "One question," I said. "Whose ticket did you carry besides your own?" For a second, my daughter was 8. Again. Answers outpacing thought. "They wouldn't let us add you without scrapping the package," she blurted. "Lyle said we should just—" She stopped, but the sentence had landed. Dr. Morse wrote a line and read it back neutral. "Darlie states the package could not include Maura without cancellation. Decision was made to proceed without Maura." Dr. Morse signaled. Skylar and Lassie entered and sat side by side. "You may each speak for under a minute," she said. "Only what you saw or heard." Skylar's voice was steady. "I heard Dad say, 'We earned this,' when Grandma's name came up." Lacey's hands folded like mine. "You told me Grandma was tired," she said to her mother, "but she answers when I text. I want to stay with Grandma until this is clear." "Thank you," Dr. Morse said, and the girls returned to the adjoining room. "I have one boundary," I said. "No direct contact with the girls tonight. Updates go through Dr. Morse. We'll reassess after Sunday." "I want daily calls," Darlie said. "We can schedule brief supervised calls, Doctor." Morse offered if today's plan is honored and the tone remains calm. Darlie looked at me, waiting for the old softening. I let silence answer. We moved down the hall to the Family Services Annex. The windows were frosted. The chairs were built for waiting. Deputy Laramie met us with an envelope. "Ms. Maura," he said, "this is an administrative notice regarding a civil asset hold connected to inquiries." He turned to Darlie. "For you as well." Dr. Morse placed a thin packet beside it. "This is a voluntary safety plan," she said. "Skylar and Lassie reside with Maura for 14 days. Supervised visits here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 45 minutes. Communication flows through this office. You may consult counsel before you sign." Darlie scanned the pages, hunting for a loophole. 14 days is forever," she said. "It's 4 school lunches and 2 laundry days," I said. "They will be okay." The pen in her hand tapped twice. Then she signed initials neat. Dr. Morse countersigned and stamped copies. The envelopes disappeared into the building where doors close with quiet certainty. At home, the house put out its small arms to steady us. We unpacked the girls' go-bags on the kitchen table. Skylar pinned her team lanyard to the fridge with a Texas magnet. Lacey asked where the extra blankets lived and brought them herself. We chose eggs and toast because it cooks fast and tastes like agreement. We did not talk about Paris. We talked about the dog down the street and how the porch light flickers unless you twist the base. My phone rang outside the agreed window. I watched it light the counter, then go dark. I texted Dr. Morse instead. Call outside window. We're fine. A moment later, a message arrived through the proper channel checking in. Confirm evening routine. I replied with a single line, homework dinner lights out by 10. Near sunset, ADA Caldwell texted that a draft restitution proposal would be ready within 48 hours. Investigator North confirmed Monday pickup of my original signature cards. I wrote a list, school emails, counselor appointments, new lock codes, porch bulb. The girls cleared plates without being asked. After dishes, Lacey tucked a blanket around her shoulders like a cape and leaned into me on the couch. Skylar put the kettle on and asked if chamomile was still best for sleep. I said it was. We went to bed in a house that felt newly claimed. On the counter, the signed plan lay beneath a glass paperweight Robert bought the year the girls were born. The hall clock kept its wooden tick. Tomorrow would be for groceries and laundry. Monday would be for hallways where truth stops being personal and becomes part of the record. The marble hallway held a cool morning hum. Harlan Cross stood beside me with a slim folder, the one Marcia asked him to carry, because family court was his courtroom, not hers. Short answers, he said dates and totals. I texted Dr. Morse that the girls were with the school counselor per the plan, then rested my palm on the binder that had followed me all week. 4 breaths in, 4 out. Today would not be anger, today would be a ledger. We took the front table when the bailiff opened the doors. Judge Rowena March entered with a steady, fact-first manner. She set decorum, outlined the sequence, and appointed Paige Romero as guardian ad litem. Harlan announced for me, opposing counsel for Darley. Ada Aaron Caldwell and investigator Dana North sat in the second row noted as observers regarding parallel financial concerns. Darley's attorney went first. He called me confused by electronic itineraries, the sort of older traveler who misunderstood app-based boarding passes. He suggested I had impulsively moved retirement funds without grasping fees or timelines. The trip, he said, was a miscommunication, a family plan evolving under time pressure, never a scheme. He smiled at the word scheme as if calling it small could make it untrue. I kept my eyes on the edge of the table and waited. Harlan rose and walked me through the exhibits we had pre-marked. I spoke like I used to at parent-teacher conferences, measured exact. Date of the $65,000 wire routing number recipient account. The airline audit showing no e-ticket in my name. The Paris photo with the face-down place card and Kenda's analysis. The tablet exports a calendar tag, CUPOA, and the family contrib spreadsheet aligning rows to relatives' receipts. I gave only what I could prove, and I could prove a great deal. Opposing counsel tried to fog the room again. Miss Tiernan, do you know what a PNR actually is? Harlan objected sustained. Then he turned to Darley for one question that cleared the air. Name the airline agent who told you you couldn't add your mother without scrapping the package, he said. Darley looked to her lawyer, then to the bench. I don't recall. Do you have any written denial? Judge March asked. No. The silence after that was the cleanest sound of the morning. Gal Romero summarized her brief interviews. Tinsley reported hearing an adult say we earned this, and both girls said they had been told I was too tired to travel. They asked to remain with me for now to keep school steady and avoid attention. There was no hint of coaching. Romero's tone stayed neutral. The words did the lifting. Harlan moved to financial safeguards. He requested a restraining order on trip-linked accounts, no new debts on the house preservation of vendor communications, and a discovery schedule. He cited the credit union incident numbers for the failed POA and the safe deposit attempt. Ada Caldwell noted coordination with investigators. The judge took notes. Then came the ruling that would hold the next 60 days. Judge March granted me temporary managing conservatorship for 60 days. She ordered supervised visitation for Darlie twice weekly at the Family Services Annex, 2 hours each schedule, via the GAL. She signed a financial restraining order, no asset dissipation, no borrowing on real property, monthly accountings, preservation of records. Disclosures were due in 10 days with a status date set. We filed into the hallway where the air felt warmer. Darlie took 2 steps toward me, and the bailiff lifted a hand, gentle but firm. Through counsel, he said. Harlan handed me a plain language summary of the orders, the kind he uses for clients who need to go home and live under them. I texted the girls, headed home with good news and pizza plans. Nova sent back a small heart, then a photo of their homework spread across my kitchen table. Before we left the building, Gal Romero scheduled her home visit and confirmed the first supervised time for later in the week. Investigator North asked to scan my original bank statements for certified copies. I signed permission and watched each page slip through the machine. Harlan checked my calendar restitution deadline visitation windows next hearing and a status call with Dr. Morse. We shook hands without ceremony. This was not triumph. It was traction. On the drive back to Plano, I let the radio stay off. The orders lay on the passenger seat under Robert's old pen. At home that night, the house met us with ordinary light. The girls dropped backpacks, opened notebooks, asked for the red pencil in the drawer. I warmed grocery store pizza and cut it into squares. Victory, I decided, is rarely loud. It is a checklist on the fridge, a key that works the first time, and 2 girls doing homework under a steadier light. I washed the knife, dried my hands, and taped the summary of orders inside the pantry door where we keep the calendar. The rules were not punishments. They were scaffolding. I sent one last message to Harlan confirming receipt of the scans. Then I turned my phone face down and listened to pencils moving, small proof that the day had changed something larger than a docket. I had wanted an apology. What I got was structure. For a household, structure is mercy. I wrote the deadlines on a sticky note and pressed it flat beside the pantry calendar restitution. Start in 30 days, supervised visits on Wednesdays and Saturdays, review hearing set. The house felt smaller and safer. Saturday's sun rims the little Houston bungalow. I step onto the porch and click off the light I kept burning through the worst months. The house exhales coffee clock, mutters 2 cereal bowls, wait beside a spoon. Rest backpacks lean by the door. No sirens, no courthouse timestamps, only the refrigerator's hum and the soft scrape of a chair. I lean on the counter, feel wood under my palm, and let the silence count as proof that we are home again. The air smells like rain and toast. I set out 3 oranges. Tonight? Tinsley tapes her recital photo to the fridge, tilting it until the bow on her dress looks straight. Nova scrolls through a campus tour playlist, trimming a song that feels too loud for the morning. On the bulletin board, the New Ordinary has a shape therapy slots, soccer practice, FAFSA, deadlines, library hours. I top off their juice and sit close enough to help, far enough to let them steer. Trust today means not hovering. The house keeps rhythm pencils in jar chargers coiled. A note reads, "Call if the bus is late." I open the file drawer and slide in yesterday's stamped orders beside the escrow receipt for the deed transfer and the restitution schedule. The bank's first deposit cleared overnight. The number is small next to what was taken, but it is real and on time. 2 house keys rest on a ceramic tray labeled with tape. Justice at home looks like this paper that holds locks that click and bills paid without pleading for permission. I set a reminder for accountings and close the file. Evidence is not a sword. It is scaffolding that lets the house breathe now. Darlie arrives for the supervised hour exactly on time, escorted from the curb by the program assistant who will wait in the car. I have set 3 chairs on the back patio and left 1 empty on purpose, a clean space that marks what is not to be filled today. There is water, not wine. We speak like people who understand clocks. She looks at the garden, then at me. I'm showing up, she says softer than I remember. I'm not asking for a shortcut. I nod once. We stay in daylight. I keep a pad for notes, topics to route to Dr. Morse next visit times, and one rule: no talk of money with the girls present. After she leaves, an approved letter arrives through the monitored channel. We open it together at the table, one girl on each side. It is not a performance. It is sentences in plain ink. There are no promises of returning to, before only a line about earning whatever comes next and showing up on time. The girls breathe at the same moment. We decide to answer monthly together, the reply stored with the orders and calendar, like any other necessary paper in this house. We set a ritual, second Saturday letters signed by all three, written at breakfast. Tone truthful, decent, no bargaining, no secrets, no scripts. Harlan stops by with a manila folder and an easy nod, the kind people use when words might crowd the moment. Community service placement is confirmed for Darlie, he says. Financial monitoring is on rails. We sit on the steps and watch a squirrel consider the bird bath. He asks nothing of me. I pour coffee into 2 mugs, pass one over, and set a second key on the table between us only for emergencies. Our hands brush when he lifts it, and we leave it there. Companionship can be quiet and still count. The porch holds our weight tonight. At the dining table, I lay out a holiday plan and write it clean. Thanksgiving will happen here at home. Darlie's hour will be in a public place with a counselor present, no overnight requests this year. I email the schedule to counsel and the guardian ad litem, then print a copy for the fridge. This is what safe looks like, I tell the girls. They sign the margin like teammates, grinning a little at the formality. Structure is a handrail that keeps us from slipping back into stories that never held. We pencil concerts. Christmas remains open for now. I draft a social post because old habits want a witness. The words eat their own tail, brave receipts, healing airport glass. I delete them. I am not a public lesson. I slip the blue passport sleeve back in the drawer beside the parking ticket I once kept like a talisman. The kitchen has already clapped 2 girls doing homework, a pan cooling on the stove, the dog asleep under the table. The internet can keep its noise. My house can keep its quiet. I close app and wipe the counter, deciding the story can live in our rooms, our files, the way we move. I keep a creed simple enough to remember when I am tired. I will not parent my grown child. I will parent her children well. I will not rewrite the past. I will write the next page. I will not spend my oxygen persuading doubters. I will spend it on safety, solvency, and school. If I can do those 3, we will be all right. I tape the lines inside a cabinet door where only we will see them. On hard days, I'll read them while kettle warms, letting the words become a weather we can stand inside. Night folds in soft and ordinary. I flick the porch light back on, not as a beacon for people who use us, but as a rule I keep for those who live here. The bulb throws a patient circle over the steps and the front walk. Laughter spills from the living room, followed by the thud of a book closed and a quiet need help. Nova asks about an essay. I rinse my cup, dry my hands, and answer to my names again. Mom, Grandma. Both fit, and tonight they feel earned. The light stays on. We sleep under hush. I'm a mother who learned that love without boundaries becomes a ledger of losses. If you're ever erased by the people you raised, lead with documents, not drama. Protect the kids, your credit, and your calm. Silence can be strength when it builds a case and a safer home. What would you have done at that airport? Have you ever chosen policy over apology? If this story reached you, drop a 1, or tell me where you're watching from. If it missed, say why I'm listening. For more true, hard-earned endings, please subscribe and stay for the next chapter. Start a paper trail today. Call your bank, save receipts, log times and names. Choosing safety isn't weakness. It's how you protect tomorrow. Yes,